So, hello and welcome to this episode of the Centre of FinTech podcast. We've got Amanda Shoffel and we've got Akhid Rahman, who are today going to be talking about the fantastic topic of their careers in finance and FinTech since UEL, since the University of East London. But before we proceed, I would say a bit about the Centre of FinTech. Obviously, this is the Centre of FinTech podcast, and just basically talk about what we're about and who we are. So my name is Dr. Iwa Salami, and I'm the director of the Centre of FinTech. So the Centre of FinTech is a joint school project between the Royal Dutch School of Business and Law and the School of Architecture, Computing and Engineering, all based at the University of East London. And the idea around the centre is really I'd say we have five predominant remits. First being to facilitate FinTech education, the second being to facilitate research in FinTech, third being to engage with the industry, fourth being to engage in commercial projects of relevance to industry, and the fourth being to work and lead in the area of policy and regulation and the research around those. And so without further ado, I'd really like to I'd like to transfer, the conversation to these two amazing people that we've got here. So they're going to tell us a bit about themselves. They're going to tell us a bit about their career journeys and answer a few questions. So I'd like to start with you, Amanda. And I wonder, Amanda, if you could really just give us a brief overview of your career journey and how UEL has contributed to that. Thank you.
Sure, and thank you so much for having me on. So I started, my background is in law as a lawyer. I practiced in litigation in the US for about 10 years. I litigated both criminal and civil side cases, primarily for government regulators like the New York Attorney General, and quite often liaise with law enforcement. Towards the end of kind of my time in litigation, I went into white-collar crime, white-collar criminal defense and securities litigation. And that was where I got really interested in the financial side of things, of where the money was going and how people were hiding it. And I had a trial against the Department of Justice that involved a cryptocurrency exchange that was unregistered at the time and allegations of money laundering. And just thought it was so exciting, but felt that I was a bit limited in that I'd had no kind of formal training or background in finance, financial investigations, or the regulatory aspects of it. So I decided to take a career break. I wanted to change fields a bit and go from just being in litigation and being a lawyer to doing kind of in-house compliance roles. Although I really enjoyed my time in litigation, I started to feel like I got a case after a problem had happened. And so many times I looked at it and I was like, wow, I wish I was on the front end of that, helping prevent this from happening. I thought I could do more on that side. And so decided to have a bit of a career break and went back to school and looked at schools both in the US and abroad because I wanted to have a bit more international exposure. I felt like I was really lacking that, and settled on UEL. And it was a great decision. I got an incredible opportunity to study with people who are actually practicing in the field, such as yourself, such as some other professors and adjuncts that worked at organizations like the FCA and really worked in the field. And so it was such an important step because the professors at UEL weren't just, teaching you from a book, they were teaching you from real world experience. And that made all the difference. So I graduated from the LLM program about 5 years ago. And since then, I ended up staying in London and working in various in-house compliance roles. So I became the money laundering reporting officer for Kraken Digital Asset Exchange, which is a large centralized crypto exchange, as well as Bitstamp, which is another large European exchange. And just recently actually joined a law firm and kind of went back to the practice of law, but taking everything I've learned along the way.
Amazing. Absolutely brilliant. And congratulations actually on your new role, because I do follow
Thanks.
you. We're super proud of your achievements, Amanda. Just before I turn to Akhid, I have to say actually, from very early on, I'd noticed you as a student of mine as being a stellar student. So I'm not surprised at all as to your progress and your success. So, well done. You're the type of student that do us proud. So
Thank you.
I'd go now to Akhid. Akhid, so if you could kindly do the same and just really tell us about your career journey and how UEL has contributed to that. Thanks.
Absolutely. So I'd like to start by saying thank you very much for having me here today. It's an honor to come back as an alumni of UEL and share my journey. So to just like to start that today I am a senior associate working at the Financial Conduct Authority, but my career journey has started at the age of 16 when I moved here, actually. So in London from Italy. I have started to go, so I started to study here. I did my GCSEs and my A-levels. And as I was living in Newham, I wanted to go to university that was local while I was working, and I wanted to study as well. So UEL was a great match for me, and I had a fantastic 3 years studying at the University of East London in between different campuses in Docklands and of course at Stratford as well. A few of the professors there told me were Ekije and also Shampa, which gave me the basics and the foundations of statistics and economics and finance to be able to pursue a career in finance and where I am today. I think not even that, UEL actually contributed to a lot of my knowledge on extracurricular activities as well, because I remember the professors used to always push us to do more and to be able to contribute and be part of different activities outside the classroom as well. I remember we had dinners with industry leaders like JP Morgan, even when I was a second year of university with the class. And of course, I remember I founded the Economic and Finance Society at UEL, hopefully still running to this day as a student. So, UEL gave me the basics for me to follow and actually achieve the dreams for a career in finance, of course. Now, I've taken the basics that I've taken from UEL, from statistics and economics. I knew when I've done my degree that I wanted to pursue a career in finance, but I didn't know where, at least which role I wanted to do. So after my degree, I actually have taken gap year in the middle to make sure that I was sure what I wanted to study, or at least where I wanted to work. And it's there back in 2018, after my graduation, that I realized that the world of data was booming at this point, and there was a lot of potential that could have led me to a career in both finance and data. So I found a passion in data as well. So I decided to pursue a master's in business analytics, operational research, and risk analysis, where it gave me the skills of data and AI and the understanding of the world of data science. And I really wanted to bring my early passion of finance and economics with my passion of data, combine it together. So I then joined a consultancy in data trading and risk. I worked with different investment firms around the world. One of them was with a few boutique firms in Switzerland, but one also with the Canadian Security Authority. I was able to work with them, share my experience in data, but also in finance. And after 2 years as a data scientist, I decided to come back to London and work here in Newham again, where the journey has started actually. So I've started to work as a senior data analyst here at the Financial Conduct Authority, and because out of I think chance, it happened I was speaking to one of the managers around here, which was organizing an event with this London University, Pavlo Avramovic, and we started to speak about this opportunity that we could have. I informed him that I used to be alumni from UEL, and we organized this event with a lot of students. We had a fantastic time. Students came to FCA, but also we decided to give more, because as an alumni, I wanted to create something that and inspire future students as well. So we decided to start this mentorship program. Thanks to you, Iwa, as well, for facilitating this program. And today we are there are mentors in the Financial Conduct Authority that are allowing to they're mentoring and inspiring students from UEL, and I'm happy that we are contributing and working to build this relationship. So this is my career journey. Hopefully came back to a whole cycle from where I started to giving back UEL as well, and inspiring the generations of other students as well.
Wow, super, super amazing, super amazing. And thank you so much, I have to say, really, for your contribution. At the Centre of FinTech, we are particularly excited by the program that we've recently gotten into with the FCA, the mentoring program, that you've played a quite key role, and obviously giving quite a significant credit also to Pavle Avramovic, your a colleague at the FCA. So we're super delighted about this and really thankful for your contribution here. Obviously, amazing career journey, Akhid. I just wanted to find out from the two of you, and I know this is slightly one of those questions that probably wasn't on, but the future, what does that hold for you? Because for both of you, you've got an amazing career. I just wonder if you see academia as a part of that career at some point. Amanda, shall I start with you?
I was going to say, are you guys hiring adjuncts? Can I put in an application?
Ooh.
No, I mean, I would love to at some point, because as I mentioned earlier, I think some of the instructors and educators I had at UEL really influenced my journey, and I still keep in touch with them, and I would love to do that for someone else. I mentioned that I recently moved from kind of in-house MLRO roles to going back to working at a law firm, Gunnar Cook. And part of the reason I did that was to just experience kind of having different clients again in different cases and solving different problems. And I'm excited to do that. I think, a career in education is one way to do that. But I think that's the thing that's exciting to me right now. And I'm not sure what's next, but I think, helping different people, different businesses is probably the focus in the next couple of years.
Brilliant. Thank you. Would certainly bear that in mind, Amanda. And you, Akhid?
A comeback in academia would be very nice, of course, just to make sure. So I think what I would like to do in academia is go back to education myself, rather than I would like to learn more, and I've been thinking about maybe taking the next step towards doing an MBA in the future to bring the experience that I have, of course, that I've taken these years to develop more. And if the future holds me, and to be able to be a teacher, I would love that, because that would be great. Even to inspire. I believe that helping people realize their journey, mentoring is the way. For me, the way I see it.
Amazing. So thank you so much. I have to say I'm thoroughly enjoying this episode. So thank you both. So my next question, and I think may have been covered, but just in case we left out one or two things, I wanted to say or ask, from your experience so far, what key areas in finance, fintech regulation, and compliance do you think students should be looking at? So shall we start with Akhid?
Absolutely. So as I've mentioned before, I believe the world is now moving towards the new world of AI and data science. So the way I see it is that when students should focus into the world of finance, should start to realize that technology plays an important part, and the tools like AI and with the new words like ChatGPT and Python and so on, they should be all learning these skills as they're learning, but also to be able to apply them in the domain of finance as well. As now everything is interconnected, and any industry out there will try to implement AI and any sort of tools of technology of this sort. So I say for any students out there that would like to focus in a career in finance or fintech, and even regulation, where we're heavily using AI as well. They should be learning all these new tools and be up to date with the newest technology out there, with all the industries that are releasing models every day. And yes, so any career, either in finance or even outside of industry, any industry, should be able to implement these technologies.
And just to follow on, thank you for that. Just to follow on for that, I mean, this is something I think about. And would you say, of course, now that it's actually more challenging to be a student working, just a student generally, actually, given the fact that we've got all these technologies that you've got to add to your, I'd say, sort of technical or professional experience. And the reason why I say this is for lawyers, for example, I mean, even lawyers that are specialized in finance, such as Amanda, you almost begin to think that you need to know a bit about, so sometimes actually working knowledge about some of these technologies to be able to actually function at your best capacity in the role that you have, even in softer courses like law. So what would you say to that? Do you think it's more challenging now as a student studying in this space? Yeah, Amanda, actually.
I mean, I do, because I think the space has just expanded so much, even over the past couple of years. There's so many different areas in fintech regulations. What I was going to add is that one thing that I've seen, and that I would tell your students to look at, is the way the regulatory perimeter has expanded to ensnare, activities that perhaps a couple of years ago were not within it. Crypto's perfect example. We're seeing that in the UK, in the US. We're seeing that in a lot of different places, that a couple of years ago, you may not have had to register with the FCA or with FinCEN as a money service business in the US, but now you do. When I was a student at UEL, my final dissertation, which I wrote in conjunction with doing a work experience at a fintech bank at the time, was on APP fraud, authorized push payment fraud, or friendly fraud, social engineering scams. Cases where people had voluntarily sent funds, but done so under false pretenses because they thought they were sending it to a family member, or they thought their bank had called them and told them an account had been compromised and they needed to move it. And it was a very emerging area that had not yet been covered by regulations, but the amount of fraud was so damaging to consumers and to the public at large that different regulators were starting to look at how banks and fintechs might be responsible and have to reimburse clients. And so one of the things I wrote about was these new regulations and how they might be implemented. And because I was working at the time at a fintech, I raised this to a couple of people that worked there. They were very interested in it. And so I was able to create kind of a framework around it. And that experience for me was completely formative. Not only did it help me at work, because then I had kind of found a little niche where I was, having some interesting work that was super helpful, that was on the forefront of kind of what the regulations were doing and where they were going. But, in the long term, I think was a really, valuable experience in that the regulations were starting to cover something they hadn't before. And not that you can always predict which way this is going to go, but I would encourage students to look at law that is evolving, that is changing, that's not well settled yet, and the practical ways in which you might implement that or help a business with it, because that was really valuable for me.
Well, thank you so much for that input, actually, for that contribution. And the reason why I'm particularly saying thank you is because at the Centre of FinTech, we're very aware that students can't learn about FinTech in a classroom environment. They've actually got to go out, engage with industry. We provide a theoretical framework and some of the theories around it, but really they get to learn about the application of it in industry. And thank you for mentioning that whilst you were doing your dissertation, you're actually also working and you're able to see the direct application of what you were researching, to what was going on in industry. So that's really profound. And for us, that's very essential. That's very key, that fintech for us is alive, it's moving, it's not abstract. So even though we provide fintech education, for us it's very key that has its bearing on what's happening in industry, and therefore industry engagement is quite key. So thank you so much for that, Amanda. So moving to the next question now, we're fastly, I think, proceeding with the questions. So moving to the next question now, it's about what projects are you currently working on of interest? Akhid, we could start with you.
Absolutely. Being in the data technology intelligence department within the Financial Conduct Authority, we're involved with new technologies every day, of course, but something that I and most of the world is currently working on again is definitely AI. But recently we started to hear about ChatGPT again. But the word natural language processing is something that everyone should be focusing on right now, because of course, being able to code, it's essential if you want to pursue a career as a data scientist or financial analyst, or even as a data analyst. But we'll see in the next years to come that coding will be less probably, and natural language processing will take over. So you can simply talk to a machine using normal language than every day. So this is one of the projects that we thinking about recently, right? So to be able to apply these large language models which are out there, by training them or making sure that they comprehend the financial words and keywords that we want to use and search within all this vast financial data that we have, of course, within the world of regulation and any sort of financial words. And so we are focusing very a lot on these new large language models, and try to make sure that we can use natural language to open up this world of AI for everyone, so everyone can have an access to it, and without even any technical background, to make sure that everyone can ask questions to the machine and being able to get the benefits out of this new technology. So this is the sort of project we're currently focusing on.
Brilliant. Thank you for that. And whilst you were talking, Akhid, I just realized that it's also very useful to mention that obviously you work at the FCA, but to also mention that you have colleagues across the range. So colleagues whose background, like Amanda, is law, colleagues whose background is totally finance, and colleagues whose background maybe economics and some other type. So all the members of the FCA aren't just techie people, just for us to sort of set that out. But one of the points that you raised that's really amazing, and I think going to the point that you'd mentioned before, is that there would be a need at some point for everyone to have an idea, Juicy, about some of these technologies. So thank you for your input. And also you mentioned obviously natural processing languages. You mentioned AI and a few technologies that you guys are kind of sort of looking at, all amazing. Someone may think, actually, I'm interested in a career at the FCA, but I'm not a technologist, right? It's just to clarify that actually there are different roles that can be.
Yes, FCA is very diverse. We have a lot of roles available for everyone. So you can find yourself, even if you're a tech person in FCA, if you're a lawyer, you can find yourself there, if you are financial and economist. So there's a very diverse organization for sure. But when I was mentioning the technologies, we hope that technology become available for everyone in a way that is accessible for everyone with every sort of different backgrounds.
Yes, yeah, brilliant. Thank you. And that's an amazing point. Yes, that is an amazing point. Thank you for that. Okay, and then over to you now, Amanda. So the current projects that you're working on?
Sure. I think kind of what I'm doing now, my role is, I think, two separate buckets. One is the legal bucket. So I have clients that have white collar or regulatory matters in New York that might need some assistance. So I have, for example, like insider trading cases and things like that. That the other part of my practice is advisory. And so firms or fintechs or startups or crypto exchanges that want to apply for registrations or licenses here in the UK or in the US, I advise, I help them essentially identify optimal regulatory jurisdictions for their products, which could be traditional exchange activities like trading, custody, staking, NFTs, or Web3 products. And then basically help them design compliance frameworks that work for the business and that are regulatorily compliant. So things like figuring out how to onboard customers in a KYC compliant manner, or advising on sanctions and things like that, and how to get those programs up and running.
Brilliant. Wow, amazing. Thank you so much. And those areas that you've mentioned really cut across the work that we do at the Centre of FinTech, and which is the reason why we're very privileged to have, people like yourselves, on board with us, because of course it means we can draw from your expertise, from your practice knowledge and the like, to benefit our current students. So thank you so much for that, Amanda. That's very useful to know. Now, my next question is, and this is the last question, is what advice would you have wished to have had as a student? Actually, it's the second to the last. So what advice would you have wished to have had as a student? And Amanda, I'll start with you.
Sure. I think it's a good question. I think I would have, if somebody had told me, just to create your own opportunities wherever you can. I don't think during my first, when I first arrived at the university, I did that as much as I could have. And then by the second half of the year, I started to, and it was a much better experience. And what I mean by that is, like, talk to your, advisors after class about what you're interested in, what you're working on. Reach out to alumni. If you have an idea that you want to implement at work, run it past people. I still have classmates where we chat about compliance. Really, I know this sounds so exciting that we chat about compliance in our spare time, but there's so many resources there to take advantage of. It doesn't need to be a formal engagement. There's just so much to learn from the people around you. My, classmates in particular were mostly people that were working or taking a career break like me. And there was a wealth of experience there. And I think, like I said, at first I was just a bit hesitant and not sure, but talking to people, just telling them what I was interested in, finding out about their experiences, it made the whole experience so much better. And not to wait for the perfect and right opportunity, but just to take advantage of any opportunity around you will lead to such a better outcome.
Brilliant. Thank you so much for that. That's very useful. And also, just to highlight, really, just thinking about what you just said, is also the network and the future collaboration that comes out from opportunities that you can work with for previous colleagues or colleagues that you actually sort of studied with. So there are huge opportunities there. So not to burn bridges, once you finished at UEL, which is really amazing. So thank you so much and that's actually an advice for future students. And how about you, Akhid? What advice would you have wished to have had as a student?
I think the biggest advice, the couple of advice that I'll probably tell myself going back, if I could advise myself, of course, is to do not stress. As a student, you tend to stress so much. You want to know you've taken the correct career path. You want to know where you can, end up and if you're in the right path. But I think the advice would be that everything will be fine, because that's the most important way to see it, is because you're already taking the right step, and the next step will be the right one. But also spend time to try to understand your surrounding, and make sure that you do really take every opportunity, as Amanda has said, to make sure that you explore everything. Be ready to step out from your comfort zone sometimes, and it's important that you network. I believe in the power of network as well, that you stay in touch with your professors, with your friends, and the friends that you make across your degree or your master's. So stay with you and follow your path for the rest of your life as well, because you're sharing the same journey in a way. But also, I think just advice for every student is that explore new things. Try new extracurriculum activities as well. Just because you've taken a career, in finance, just don't look into this. Have a look in, other industries as well. How can you combine them together? And it's, I think the beauty of academia is that you can explore many aspects, many industries. And, being a student is that you're full of options and full of opportunities. And yeah, that would be the advice that I would give to my old self, when I was in university, but also to the new students, for sure.
Brilliant. Thank you so much. That's very useful. It's nice for them to hear from you than from us. And Amanda, just to give you that opportunity as well to talk about 2 to 3, about 1, 2, or how many you can talk about within the time that we have, advice that you would give to students exploring opportunities in finance and in the fintech space.
Yeah, I think there are a ton of networking opportunities that are free, that don't cost anything. I mean, I remember when I was a student, there was a lot of organizations that have a bit of a higher bar to entry, but things are very easy to access now in a way that I think they weren't even a couple of years ago. On Telegram, there's different compliance groups and chats geared to crypto. There's different women in blockchain or women in finance events that, again, like, don't cost anything. Start building up your networks, talking to people. You know, I was very lucky. I mentioned that I had a job, but when I first moved here, you know, I was waitressing and going back to working in bars until I was lucky enough to get a job at Starling Bank, but in their customer service department. And I thought at the time, like, I'll just take it because it's close to finance. And actually turned out to be great because I learned kind of how to solve for customer problems, how banking rails worked, what the difference is between a faster payment and, like, you know, SIP transfers and all this. And then talking to people there, I was able to get onto the fraud and legal teams after a while. But I would say, yeah, start talking to your network, start building it up now. There's so many opportunities. Even if you get into a role that doesn't look like the complete right fit, sometimes being in the right place is just as helpful. And then you talk to people and you can work your way into, you know, the room that you want to be in very easily. So yeah, that would be my advice.
Amazing, amazing. Well, thank you so much for that. Build your network, seize opportunities that are out there. Well, amazing. So thank you so much. So we come to the end. We've come to the end of this podcast, and I would just like to say a very big thank you to Amanda Shoffel and a very big thank you to Akhid Rahman. Thank you so much. We're super delighted that you're able to do this, and we're super, super proud of your achievements. So thank you for coming.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for the invitation. Thank you.
Thank you.
Brilliant. Thanks.